I just thought I'd make this quick video to help other people who might be in the same situation as I've been in for the last little while. The car in question for me is a BMW E53 2004 3-litre diesel sport. And the problem I had was that the usual message was coming up on the dash about the self-leveling suspension being inactive. INPA told me very quickly that I had no output from my right-hand rear sensor. So I thought, an easy problem to fix. I ordered myself one of these from eBay, and it was listed for my particular model. The number on my sensor was 1093700, 1093700, and the eBay advert said that this sensor would be compatible. So I fitted the sensor and had loads of really odd issues. In the end, I put it down to the fact that the harness must be chaffed somewhere, and I made up my own harness and replaced the plug what goes onto the sensor with a long length of cable all the way back to the EHC control unit. Sadly, that didn't cure my problems. All the problems I was getting, it was doing very bizarre things. The suspension would jack up, would only work. The message would all of a sudden disappear if the lights came on. Then I messed around with it and discovered that with the engine running, I could see voltage coming out of the replacement sensor. But if I switched the engine off, I had no voltage. But then if I turned the lights on, under certain conditions, the sensor output would appear and clear the message itself. So I started looking into it a little bit, and somebody on one of the forums put me right and told me that, in fact, it is a double sensor. It does two things. The rear right controls not only the height level for the self-leveling system, but also the it's part of the headlight vertical aim system. So basically this is two hall sensors in one package, and half of it does one thing and half of it does something else, or one sensor does something else. And just to confirm that, I took off the old sensor, dismantled the old sensor as best I could, which had a mechanical fault incidentally, not an electrical fault. And with a little bit of very simple investigation work, I quickly confirmed this was the case. There's two hall sensors in one package, and they are both completely independent. So on pins 1, 4 and 5, they're your grey wires which go off to the front headlight control unit, and on the other pins which are left, which are 6, 2 and 3, they're the yellow cables which go off to the self-level control system. So I couldn't really work out what was going on with this replacement sensor. In the end, I decided I must have a faulty sensor. So I ordered another sensor, and that came today, and here we are. Came from Amazon Prime. I've kept it in very good condition because it's going straight back. So this is the replacement sensor I bought. It's a bit dearer, this one. Incidentally, the first sensor I bought was meant to be a Febby, and it came unmarked. And the second sensor I bought, actually I'm missing out a vital stage here. This is actually the third sensor I bought. The first sensor I bought had absolutely no output whatsoever. That was just a complete piece of shit. So this is a third sensor I bought. It's got the right numbers on it. Very hopeful. Popped it in, and exactly the same results as this sensor here. So this got me thinking. I started to pull my hair out a little bit, thinking what's going on. So I thought I'd do some basic checks. So here we have the original sensor, and I've got plus 5 volts going in on the yellow and grey lead, which is pin 3 of the sensor, and I've got my negative connection to the yellow and black lead, which is pin 2 of the sensor, and I'm going to monitor the output of pin 6 which is the yellow and red. And here we go. You can probably see now we've got half a volt on there. So if I just now carefully put a pair of pliers on here and give that a little swing round, you can see the meter, the voltage is varying. And that's working exactly how it should. Unfortunately, there is a mechanical problem with this sensor, and it took some freeing off to get it to do this. I actually ended up breaking the arm off trying to free it up. Loads of penetrating fluid, and I managed to get it moving in the end. This is obviously what the creaking on my suspension was before I got this far. For a while I had creaking suspension, and I'm now thinking it's probably come from this. But anyway, with it freed off, you can see that that's working fine. So without getting too boring, or even more boring than I'm being at the moment, and anal about this, we're going to pop 5 volts onto pin 5 of this sensor, which is the grey and green cable, and we're going to pop our negative volts, a negative connection shall I say, onto pin 1, which is grey and white, and we're going to monitor the incidentally, while I've still got this connected, you can see that there's nothing really going on with the connection still on the yellow side of the sensor, which is how it should be in my mind. Here we go. So we're now on the headlight side of the sensor, and that's functioning just fine. That's fine. So if I now get my meter and we'll look around all the other cables, you'll see that nothing there. A little bit of leakage from somewhere, probably all the spray was in the side of the sensor, but 0.1 of a volt, it's nothing to worry about. Here we go. So there's not a lot going on. So basically what I've proven is simply that there is no connection between the suspension side of the sensor and the headlight side of the sensor. The headlight side is on grey cables and the suspension side is on the yellow cables, but there is nothing, there's no internal connection in this between the two halves of that sensor. We're going to pop the Chinese one on and we're going to have a look. Bear in mind we've still got 5 volts on the light side of the sensor. Let's have a look here. Oh, look, we've got an output. So I've got nothing going in on the suspension side of the sensor, yet on the output leg of the suspension side of the sensor, which is pin 6, yellow and red, we've got an output. So that means surely we haven't got an output on the light side of the sensor. Oh look. So what does that mean then? I'm thinking it's probably only one sensor, and both outputs are connected to that one sensor. And what's more, if I disconnect my 5 volts from this light side of the sensor and we'll apply it to negative goes in on the yellow and black, so now we've got the suspension side of the sensor connected, and look, we've got nothing. So basically it was never going to work, and it would also account for why when I turned my lights on we started to see an output on here, and why sometimes it would clear the fault on the car, but not all the time, but only sometimes. It would clear the fault on the car, and the car would be okay until I stopped, and then instantly, soon as I turned the lights off or the ignition was off, you would lose 5 volts to the light side of the sensor. You would lose output to the suspension side of the sensor and it would generate the fault. Now what's really interesting is if I now put this one on, brand new one which arrived today, it's exactly the same as this piece of shit here. They work in both work in identical ways. They're both incorrect. And to be honest with you, I could piss around with the wiring to this sensor and I could create 5 volts, constant 5 volts to the light side, nick the output from it or something, and it's just and it might work, but basically you're pissing in the wind if you think you're going to buy one of these Chinese sensors and plug it in at the right rear position and your BMW. Forget it. It's not going to happen. It's just a waste of time and money and will drive you mad. I don't really see why I should have to modify my wiring loom or the connections, which incidentally I've hacked about quite a bit trying to get to this stage now, just to make one of these cheap sensors work. Complete false economy. I just really wish now I paid £148 at BMW and bought the OEM sensor. I just can't believe how much time I've wasted on this simple, what should be a simple thing. So anyway, sorry to waffle on, 11-minute video, but hopefully I've proven to people that you shouldn't be wasting your time with these sensors. You know, this one was listed as a direct replacement to this, and I dare say if it was on any other corner of a car, you'd get away with it. As long as only pins 1, 4, and 5 are used, it will work. If it relies on any of the other pins, forget it, it ain't going to work. Complete ball ache, but there you are. Thanks a lot. Okay, so following my little test last night, I decided I'd free off the shaft through there. There's actually an oil seal under here you have to prise out. And once you've got that out, you can get access to the bearing underneath. I managed to free it off, but in the process, previously I managed to break this arm, so I've had to drill it and put a screw through there. I've calibrated it against one of the Chinese ones, so I know the position of this is pretty much okay. I've had to put that in as a locating peg. And the idea is, I've also had to make a cover because I smashed the cover off originally. The idea is, before I order the OEM one and spend another 150 quid on this, I thought I'd just, now I've got this operating properly, I just thought I'd put it on the car and see how we go. So fingers crossed, it'll be okay. I am going to wrap this in some self-amalgamating tape I've got as well, which works really well for waterproofing. Before I put it on, I just thought I'd show you first of all that this is the OEM sensor. It's been freed off. I've had to repair the lever, calibrate it against one of the other ones, and make a cover, and here we are, it's ready to go in. So fingers crossed that will cure my problem for now, and then I can order the real one.